Sharon Payne was a 15-year-old from Dublin. She lived in an area just outside the city centre called Crumlin with her mother Philomena, her father Christy, and her younger brother Christopher Jr. Sharon hung around with a girl called Jenny O'Dwyer, and this is how she would meet her boyfriend, Jenny's brother, Jesse. Jesse was born in 1970 in Birmingham in the UK. When he was 4, his parents divorced, and his mother actually brought the kids to Dublin. As a teenager, Jesse actually moved back to the UK then and either lived with relatives or spent time in hostels. In '87 then, he came back to Dublin. He worked as a labourer, a tyre fitter, but for the most part was unemployed. He was charged with stealing a bike and then also a car. Both times he was brought before the Metropolitan Children's Court. Later, he would be charged with burglary in the district court, where he would receive probation. As you can imagine, 38-year-old Christy was not happy that his daughter was going out with Jesse, and he did try to stop it. So Jesse would have to actually come into the back garden, climb up onto the extension, and get in through Sharon's bedroom window to see her. Do whatever they were doing. Christy did try to stop her seeing him, but you know yourself. Christy actually wasn't well. He had severe kidney disease, so he would actually receive dialysis in Beaumont several times a week. Sharon and Jesse were not going out long when Sharon asked her boyfriend for a big favour: to kill her father. He obviously refused, but she kept asking over several weeks. She would claim that her father beat her, her mother and her brother. There was also claims about sexual abuse. I don't know, I can't say either way because that's all there is. It's said that there's rumours and stuff like that about it. So we don't know if she was saying that just to, kind of make Jesse do it, or if it was actually truly happening. So I don't know. So I'm not really going to comment on it either way. I can't. When Jesse kept refusing, she then asked his friend Stitch. So Stephen Stitch McKeever was also 17 and from the nearby area of Drimnagh, which would have just kind of been one area over. It was nearly the same area. He was also a petty criminal. So Sharon asked him like a dozen times, but he also said no. Now, in April 1988, Jesse and Stitch broke into the Payne family and burgled them. So he took like a VCR, he took a camera, he took a TV and stuff like that. I'm guessing it was organised by Sharon and I think her mother, because the other job kept coming up. And at this point, Philomena told Jesse that she would pay him $3,000 from the insurance money from the burglary to do it. So she was now asking them to kill her husband. So you would assume then, if they know about the burglary and the money and all this, then it was all obviously a scam to get the money, the insurance scam, I'm guessing. And if she was offering $3,000 to the lads, then the insurance handout was obviously a good chunk of change. Then on Friday, the 13th of May, another petty criminal, 18-year-old Anthony O'Neill, was at Jesse's house with him and Stitch. They told him about robbing the Payne house. Anthony asked, did Sharon know about it? And they said, yeah, she asked us to do it. They talked about doing it again, robbing it again. Anthony left the house without agreeing to do anything with them. Anthony then went and met another friend, 18-year-old Neil Kelly, who was an apprentice. He doesn't seem to have been involved in crime at all. And so they met at around 9 o'clock. They got a few drinks and they went to a field known as the Plots. They also took some pills, and a source says that these were most likely Valium. At about 10:30 then, Jesse and Stitch arrived. Anthony then, obviously, drunk and off his face or whatever, asked were they still going to do that thing. And they said they were. So he said, yeah, he'd come along. But he said that he didn't want to leave Neil alone, so that Neil had to come. So the four of them headed off. So they told Neil that they were, quote, on for a stroke. And he asked for how much, and they said $3,000. And they told him that the plan would be that him and Anthony would just need to tie up the family, while the others burgled and stuff like this. And he said no. But they gave him another pill, and eventually then he agreed. They made balaclavas by cutting the sleeves off jumpers and like making holes in them. At around 11 o'clock then, Jesse actually took his brother's van, and so they drove to the house. And at this point, Neil said, that's Sharon's gaff. And Jesse assured him not to worry. So while the lads were at the side of the house putting their balaclavas on, how amateur is that? A neighbour across the road saw them and called the guards. Jessie, like usual, went around the back to climb in Sharon's window, and Stitch and the others knocked on the door, and when 13-year-old Christopher answered, they just basically pushed past him. Gardaí actually then arrived at the house and knocked, so they told Christopher to go and answer it and, get rid of them or whatever. So the Gardaí actually came in and all, everybody else was upstairs, and the Gardaí came in and looked around and stuff and thought everything was fine, so they left. They then tied Sharon and Christopher up with telephone wire and put them in Sharon's room. At 11:30 p.m, Philomena arrived home. She shouted at Sharon. I don't know if it was kind of giving out or what it was, but Jessie called her aside and was like, "You know why we're here." And so Philomena apparently said, "No, he's dying." And so Jessie asked, are we doing it? And Philomena said, "Do it, but make sure to get away and make sure it's quick. I don't want him to suffer." At this moment, poor Neil realised this was not a burglary, and he asked, "What's going on?" When they told him the plan, he said no. He wanted nothing to do with it. At this point, Sharon pleaded, "No, you have to." It was now midnight, and a taxi pulled up, dropping Christy off from his dialysis in the hospital. When he walked in, he saw the 4 masked intruders, and obviously he was in no fit state to kind of confront them. And so he just said, "All right, lads, if you leave now, that'll be it." And obviously, they weren't leaving. He even told them, "There's no money. We were only burgled 3 weeks ago." They brought him into the living room and put him down in the armchair, and Jessie said, "We don't want your money, we want your life." In the home, Jessie had found a hammer in a toolbox and Stitch had found an axe. Jessie started saying things like, "I heard you're a child molester, I heard you shot like a kid with an arrow," all these things, all the rumours basically. And it seems like before Christy could even acknowledge what he had said, Stitch swung the axe down, hitting his skull. Christy slumped forward, but Jessie said, "He's not dead," and so he swung the hammer and smacked him in the head as well. Blood went everywhere. A piece of scalp was said to have actually flown across and hit the curtain. Anthony and Neil immediately ran from the house, and Jessie and Stitch followed them, leaving behind the axe. They got into the van and drove off. They got rid of the hammer and the balaclavas. Christy somehow survived but was in a coma. The Gardaí took the rest of the family's statements, and it all corroborated that it was a burglary. But the Gardaí felt something was wrong, and so the following day they actually took Christopher Jr. Aside on his own and asked him again. They said that, they didn't think that he was telling the truth. And so he told them what really happened, and he identified the masked attackers. When they were brought in, all 4 immediately admitted their involvement. Christy woke from the coma but remained in a vegetative state, and in September he would move home. In November he passed away. The state pathologist John Harbison could not confirm if the death was caused by the head injuries or the advanced kidney disease, and so therefore the charges of attempted murder were dropped. On the 3rd of July 1989, Jessie and Stitch both pled guilty to grievous bodily harm, and they received 9.5 years each. Anthony and Neil pled guilty to burglary. Anthony got 3 years and he had to attend a drug treatment course. Neil got 18 months suspended sentence. The judge believed that he truly was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, that he didn't know about the attack. So because all the lads pled guilty, it meant that Sharon and Philomena weren't needed anymore as witnesses. But as that trial kind of came to an end, then the DPP decided that they wanted to bring charges against Sharon and Philomena. But by the time they went to arrest them, they had left for England. In January 2010, the cold case was reopened. In December 2011, Sharon Payne, now known as Sharon Cullen, was arrested. She was actually now back living in Virginia in Cavan with her husband and children. In 2013, her mother was extradited from the UK. She had actually married one of Christy's cousins and became a mental health nurse. But in 2015, the cases were thrown out. The judge basically decided that too much time had passed, and that I think part of it was that it showed that in all that time the Gardaí made no effort to try find them. I think that's kind of what the main part was, because to be honest, it's a bit mad like that. Oh, just too much time has passed, because there have definitely been cases here of decades going by, and then a killer being brought to justice. So I think part of it was the fact that maybe they weren't making any effort. He said something about that they just expected the case to fall in their laps. But yeah, so they got away with their involvement in it. So that is the case of Christy Payne, Sharon Payne. One of the things that annoys me about the whole thing with the state pathologist, and I understand it, I get it, but you know, like that, the fact that they couldn't be done for attempted murder because it was like, oh well, we don't know if it was the head injuries or the kidney disease that killed him. You're like, but he was put into a vegetative state because of what they done. You know, like it deserved more than grievous bodily harm, and I understand that he was going to pass anyway, but he didn't deserve to pass in that way, and they had no, it wasn't up to them to decide that. There's been a few other cases like that as well here. There was one where it was to do with kicking. Someone was kicked outside a nightclub. Obviously they were attacked a few times, but there was a kick in this whole thing, and the same state pathologist actually, no actually, sorry, I tell a lie. The state pathologist John Harbison at the time declared like that it was the attacks, you know, the assault that ended his life. But then there was like an appeal or something like that, and the now state pathologist at the time, like she's not anymore, the next state pathologist, Dr. Marie Cassidy, she had to kind of review the case, and she actually said that she couldn't determine or she couldn't confirm that it was that instead of, I think it was like instead of something to do with the fact he had been drinking, I think, you know, like that, I don't know, I can't remember, was it not like choking on your vomit, but something like that along the lines of they couldn't determine that it was the kick to the head or this other thing. And so without doing that, your man couldn't be charged or something. I can't remember exactly. The case is the Club Annabelle case if you want to look it up and get better information than what I'm giving you right now. But yeah, so that is the case of Christy Payne. I also saw something, I think, well, when I googled Jesse's name, an article from only recently came up that he was back in prison for something else. But again, if you have any case suggestions, please send them on. I'm still finding loads of cases that I never knew about, or, you know, cases that I thought I knew about, you know, from what you hear and stuff, and then when you look into it, you're actually like, oh God, no, that's not what happened, or, you know, there was a lot more to it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and I hope to see you very soon again in the next video. So take care. Thanks. Bye.